Hello everyone, Mike Henderson here again. This will be the final video in my series on how to typeset using OpenOffice Writer. A couple of big takeaways I want to give. One is sort of the fact that as a self-published author, you're under a lot of pressure to put out something that is of a good quality. Self-publishing has taken a lot of criticism, and most of it is deserved because the covers are amateurish and the writing isn't that great a lot of times, but forget that, just the physical product is not good. There's no typesetting, the formatting of the e-book is often off, and I'm sure the same is true for a paperback book. So in order to try to put out something that is professional and looks nice and looks like you care about it, you've got to do a couple things. One thing is the font. I use here the Palatino Linotype. There are probably 4 or 5 fonts that people recommend, Minion, Baskerville, and a couple other ones, and this one. And you can Google that and get a list of these fonts, and there are sites where you can get at least a version of it for free. And you look in a book. The books don't use Times New Roman, for example. You do not want to use any kind of goofy font. You don't want to use a sans serif font such as Arial. You can't read that for long periods of time. You need a serif font like I have here, or Minion, or Baskerville, and a few others. That's one thing. The other thing is consistency. So whatever you do, and a lot of what I did here is solely for decoration, like these 3 little squigglies. It could be a star, it could be 3 stars, doesn't make any difference. Always use the same thing. Try to use the same space between them. Here also merely for decoration and to add a little bit of style to things, I use all caps for the first few words of a new section. And what words you use is sort of arbitrary. You just got to make sense. It has to basically feel right. And the other thing I do for decoration basically is I use drop caps. And again, you have to be consistent. With that, do it every time and have it in the same place every time, and always have it the same size and the same font. I just use the font of the text and just makes a big letter. You can use any font you want. You can go in here and just change the font of one single letter and make this look like a wood cut or something. Depends on the. You can make it something that's consistent with the sort of the feel and the nature of your story. Chapter titles. I don't have, I don't have chapter names. I never do that, but I have. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just I don't think it's worth it. So here I can put chapter 2. I can put a chapter with the number 2 instead of 2 written out. I can put Roman numeral 2. Whatever I do, always do it the same, and have it the same place on the page. One issue I have with OpenOffice is that there is no way, as far as I can determine, to tell where the cursor is. A lot of times down here you will have a thing that says the cursor is a certain position with respect to the X and Y axis, top to bottom. So you know where it is over here, and you know where it is over here. But we don't have that, so what I do for this, for example, I haven't gone through and done it yet, so you're going to find some are not where they should be. Like this is, I haven't done this yet, so this is going to be 18. So I want it bigger. I want it to be more space, and I probably have to. So the way I do that is you go to display the codes. The only way I know how far this is by selecting this, which is it provides the characters that show you basically where there's a line break or whatever. And you just got to count them. As far as I can tell, is the only way to do it. But you've got to make it all the same font, all the same size, all the same location. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's over here or up here or in the middle. It's just got to always be the same. As far as the text goes, it's also important to realize that typesetting is much more than just cranking in the text and letting it fall where it will. We look for things like stray words at the top of a page that are just kind of hanging out there. A lot of times you can fix this in your, here's a perfect example. You know, a professional typesetter would never allow this to happen. You will find where, like, this is okay, this is the middle of a sentence, this part is okay, this part is not. See, so you would have to do something about that using the techniques we talked about earlier. So I need to get that over there, which means I need to shorten something over here, and you know, so maybe I just go here and goof with the character formatting a little bit, and you know, maybe I'll condense it by 1/10 of a point and see what happens. Okay, so it shortened it. Just a minor little tiny change is going to be imperceptible, virtually at least, when you're reading it. As you're looking at it here, you don't really see any distinction. And it got that stray word. So this is a time-consuming and tedious operation, but it's worth it in the end to come up with a product that is professional looking. That's really all it is. You're a writer, you want to be a writer, you want it to look professional, then that's what we strive to do. We strive for perfection. And you know, if something less than that happens, well, it probably will. But you know, to make sure that the page numbers line up. One thing I like about the way it does things here, we don't have to worry about sections. In some of the other word processors, you have to worry about this page number, because it may reset the thing if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. Well, it doesn't. So the page number is in the right place. And again, these are highlighted only because they're fields. You have an option to turn this off, but it's good to know that it's not something that I entered. I tell it to do that, as we discussed in the one of the other videos. And that's really about it. I encourage you to take the time and do this, and go through and look for things like this, for example. We can zoom in on this, I think. Where'd it go? Because I don't want, let's see if we can find an example, like, you know, maybe right here. The words are spread out. I don't like the spacing between these words. So I can, you know, there's little things I can do to tinker with it. And that's sort of the point, is you just go through here and tinker with it a little bit, you know. So I'll try the spacing. I'll condense it a little bit, as I did in the other one. 1/10 of a point, just little tiny changes, and it didn't quite get done what I wanted to do, but it makes it look better. I don't really like a little half hyphenated word here, and you know, so the text should be a very even block of text. One thing you can do is you can squint, and when you squint, what comes out is the white space that runs in between words, and there should not be long white snakes running through it. I think that's a term they use. And typesetting to tell you to do that. So here, for example, again, and I'm just doing the character because I don't really like that hyphenation, so I'll try to condense that a little bit, and I'll do a tenth and see what happens. Okay, so it got away. It looks better, see? I don't believe a professional would allow that little hyphenated half of the word to hang on the next line. Now, of course, every time it's like throwing a pebble into the lake. Every time you make a change, it causes problems down the road. That's why you don't want to, you want to start sort of formatting this thing at the beginning. So maybe I can get away with 0.2 of a point here and see, well, it didn't do anything. So as I've done before, you just goof with it until it does what you want it to do. And, is that, can I live with that? Then you've got to make that decision. You look at it and say, well, it's a little scrunched up. Is there anything I can do? Is it as bad as all that, and maybe it looks better? I don't. So these are decisions. So in some degree, it's not really a rule. It's sort of a guideline. You don't want little stray bits hanging around. And otherwise, try to make it look like a solid block of text rather than having a long stretched out word or a bunch of space in between words. Like, this may be okay, and you're going to find it in books, but maybe I just want to, maybe I don't like it, so I just go to character and say, well, let me scrunch it up a little bit. I'll condense it. I'll do it 1/10 of a point and see, just like I did before. You look any better? I don't know. So that's what you have to do, but the main point is to learn some of the principles of this and use this to try to make it look like a real book. So I'm going to quit beating that to death. I think it's critical for self-published people to put out the best product they can, and that is sort of what we try to do here. So thanks for looking at these videos. I hope you got something out of it, and let me know what you think, or if there's anything that should be added or modified or changed or that's incorrect or whatever. All right, take it easy.